The 10 most produced military aircraft in history. From the dogfights over Europe to the battlefields of the Middle East, from World War II skies to the digital age of stealth and drones, there are aircraft that not only defined wars, but rewrote the story of human flight itself. But what separates the great from the legendary is sheer numbers. These are the 10 most produced military aircraft in history. The flying war machines built in such massive quantities that they became symbols of entire eras. Stay with me till number 1, because it's a plane that quite literally reshaped the skies forever. Number 10. F-4, Phantom II, 5,195 units built. The F-4 Phantom II wasn't just a jet, it was a statement. Born in the 1950s, it could scream across the sky at over Mach 2, a thunderous beast that carried the firepower of an entire squadron. It fought in Vietnam, patrolled the Cold War skies, and served over a dozen nations, from the US to Japan and Germany. The Phantom became legendary for one reason: versatility. It was a fighter, bomber, interceptor, and reconnaissance jet all in one. An aircraft so adaptable that even after newer generations appeared, it refused to fade away. Pilots often joked, "You don't fly a Phantom, you wrestle it." But when that twin-engine roar hit full afterburner, no one doubted its place in history. Number 9. P-47, Thunderbolt, 15,686 units built. Nicknamed the Jug, the P-47 Thunderbolt was one of the largest and most rugged fighters of World War II. It could take an unbelievable amount of damage and still bring its pilot home, sometimes with half its tail missing or a bullet-riddled fuselage. Powered by a monstrous 2,000-horsepower Pratt & Whitney engine, the Thunderbolt wasn't the most agile, but it was a tank in the sky. With 8.50 caliber machine guns, it could shred anything in its path, from enemy fighters to ground convoys. And when it dove at 400 miles per hour with bombs strapped under its wings, it wasn't just a fighter anymore. It was a flying thunderstorm of destruction. Number 8. B-24 Liberator, 18,493 units built. If the P-47 was the bruiser of the air, the B-24 Liberator was the workhorse. This long-range bomber became one of America's most mass-produced aircraft during World War II. It had the range to strike deep into enemy territory, from Germany to Japan, and could carry a devastating payload. The secret to its success? Efficiency. Its innovative Davis wing design gave it more lift and longer range than the famous B-17. And unlike many bombers, the B-24 was produced not just by aircraft factories, but even by car manufacturers like Ford, who built them at an astonishing pace in massive assembly lines. At the height of the war, a new B-24 rolled off the line every 63 minutes. Imagine that. One bomber per hour. That's not just production. That's industrial warfare. Number 7. F-86 Sabre, 9,860 units built. When the jet age began, speed was everything. The F-86 Sabre was America's first real jet dogfighter, a sleek, swept-wing design that ruled the skies during the Korean War. Against the Soviet-built MiG-15, the Sabre engaged in some of the most dramatic aerial duels in history, the legendary MiG Alley battles over Korea. It wasn't just fast, it was graceful. Pilots loved it for its handling and stability. It turned air combat into a high-speed chess match, and the F-86 often came out on top. Its legacy? It shaped the jet tactics still used today, proving that dogfighting didn't die with the propeller. It just evolved. Number 6. F-16 Fighting Falcon, over 4,600 units and counting. When you think of modern jets, one name always comes to mind: the F-16 Fighting Falcon, or, as pilots affectionately call it, the Viper. Built to be light, agile, and affordable, it quickly became the backbone of countless air forces, from the United States to Israel, Turkey, Egypt, and dozens more. Its fly-by-wire controls and bubble canopy gave pilots incredible agility and visibility, making it feel like an extension of the body rather than a machine. Even after 40 years of service, the F-16 refuses to retire. With continuous upgrades, advanced radars, and smart weapons, it's still flying missions across the globe today. More than a jet, the F-16 is a symbol of endurance. Number 5. Supermarine Spitfire, 20,351 units built. When Britain stood alone against Nazi Germany, one aircraft became the nation's wings, the Spitfire. Its elliptical wings and Rolls-Royce Merlin engine gave it unmatched agility. During the Battle of Britain, it became a legend, dueling Messerschmitts in heart-stopping mid-air dances of death. But beyond the numbers, the Spitfire carried something far greater: hope. Every time its engine roared across the English Channel, people looked up and felt reassured that freedom still had wings. It wasn't just a machine, it was a national hero. And by war's end, more than 20,000 of them had flown, an extraordinary feat for a nation under siege. The Reefer 4, Focke-Wulf FFW-190, 20,051 units built. If the Spitfire was grace, the FW-190 was raw brutality. Germany's Focke-Wulf 190 shocked Allied pilots when it first appeared. Faster, more powerful, and armed to the teeth. Nicknamed the Butcher Bird, it dominated the skies early in the war, taking down enemy bombers and fighters with ruthless efficiency. It was so feared that the British scrambled to upgrade their Spitfires just to compete. By the end of World War II, over 20,000 FW-19s had been built, each a testament to Germany's relentless drive for aerial supremacy. Even Allied pilots admitted, when the FW-190 appeared, we knew the game had changed. Number 3. Messerschmitt Bf-109, over 34,000 units built. Before the jet age, this was the king of the skies. The Bf-109, Germany's iconic World War II fighter, was the backbone of the Luftwaffe. It was there in 1939 when war began, and still flying in 1945 when it ended. Light, deadly, and elegant, the Bf-109 was flown by some of the most skilled and infamous aces in history, including Erich Hartmann, the top-scoring fighter ace of all time with 352 aerial victories. Built in staggering numbers, it became the face of the Axis air war. And though its design was pushed to the limits by the war's end, it remained a formidable opponent until the very last day. Number 2. Ilyushin Il-2 Sturmovik, over 36,000 units built. Nicknamed the Flying Tank, the Il-2 Sturmovik was the Soviet Union's hammer from the sky. Armored like a beast, it could dive straight into enemy fire and still destroy tanks, convoys, and artillery positions with its cannons and rockets. German soldiers learned to fear the sound of its engines. It meant death was coming. So vital was this aircraft that Stalin himself said, "The Il-2 is as essential to the Red Army as air and bread." Its armor plating, ruggedness, and sheer firepower made it one of the most influential close air support aircraft ever built. Over 36,000 were produced, a testament to Soviet determination and industrial power during one of the darkest chapters of human history. Number 1. Mikoyan Gurevich MiG, 15/MiG-17 family, over 40,000 units built, and now the undisputed champion of mass production, the MiG-15 and MiG-17 family. Together, these Soviet-built jets became the most produced military aircraft in history, with an astonishing 40,000-plus units flying worldwide. Their simple design, rugged construction, and low cost made them the backbone of communist air forces across Asia, Europe, and Africa during the Cold War. The MiG-15 first stunned the world in the Korean War, outclassing early American jets like the F-80 and B-29. Then came its upgraded sibling, the MiG-17, faster, meaner, and just as iconic. Together, they symbolized the might of Soviet engineering, and for decades, they ruled the skies from Cuba to China. Even today, some nations still use them for training and heritage flights, proof that legends never really die, because legends deserve the spotlight. C-47 Skytrain/Dakota, over 10,000 built, the workhorse of World War II that dropped paratroopers, hauled supplies, and still flies in remote areas today. North American P-51 Mustang, over 15,000 built, the long-range escort fighter that escorted bombers all the way to Berlin and changed the course of air war. MiG-21 Fishbed, over 11,000 built, sleek, deadly, and fast. This Cold War icon became the AK-47 of the skies. The legacy of numbers. When you look at these aircraft, you realize something powerful. Each was more than just metal, rivets, and wings. They were symbols of nations, eras, and ideologies. They carried not just pilots, but entire histories of struggle, innovation, and ambition. And though time has replaced them with stealth, drones, and supersonic fighters, their legacy still echoes every time an engine roars to life. Which one of these legendary aircraft do you think deserves the title of the greatest warplane ever built? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you love aviation history as much as we do, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because our next episode dives into the deadliest dogfights ever recorded. Until then, this is Nilo Airspace, reminding you, the sky is not the limit. It's just the beginning.